Marius is my favorite champion in Raid Shadow Legends at the moment. He's such an incredible and versatile champion that it begs the question, what build should you use on him to make him the most useful in as many areas of the game as possible? Today, in this video, we will test which build is the best on him. Is it 9-piece Slayer, 9-piece Merciless, or the good old Stone Skin plus Lethal or Stone Skin plus Savage? Let's test it out and let's get into it. Hey guys, SMZ here, we're back playing Raid Shadow Legends. And guys, this testing that I am going to showcase, I did this testing on a live stream last week. And I live stream very regularly on both YouTube and Twitch. So if you happen to be online at that time, please do tune in. I would love to have you there. With that said, let's jump into it and let me explain the approach that I used first of all. So there are three things that I'm going to be testing. One is 9-piece Slayer, one is 9-piece Merciless. And then obviously there's the Stone Skin and Lethal. Lethal and Savage you can change interchangeably, obviously. So with Slayer, which is my preferred set, and that was the hypothesis going into the testing that this will be the best. Let's find out if that was actually the case. So 9-piece Slayer allows you to have 10% crit, 15% crit rate and 30% crit damage, in addition to 10% speed. And then these three bonuses. The last bonus, which is the most relevant, especially for Marius, is 30% chance to deal additional AoE damage, which basically means he's repeating his big AoE hit, which is great for killing bosses, any longer boss fights, basically. 6-piece bonus is 30% ignore defense. And then this 4-piece bonus, which a lot of people just overlook, which is really good. It fills turn meter every time by 5% with the first hit on each enemy from AoE attacks. So this is actually pretty useful, especially on wave content. So that's the Slayer bonus. Let's look at the Merciless bonus. So Merciless gives 25% attack, which is not relevant for a defense-based champion like Marius. So that's kind of a downside. The crit damage is 30%. It's the same as Slayer. The speed is the same, 10% extra. Crit rate 15% is missing. What that allows you is in Slayer, with that extra 15% crit rate already built in, that means that you can pump your stats elsewhere. Then obviously the three bonuses, the ignore defense is slightly higher here compared to Slayer. It's 35% instead of 30. And then you have 30% chance to decrease a random skills cooldown, which is amazing for Marius, obviously. And a 15% chance of getting an extra turn as well, which is also really, really good, especially in longer fights. So those are the two bonuses. And then let's look at Lethal and Stone Skin. So Stone Skin, you generally try to go for a 4-piece Stone Skin. So we have the 1-turn Stone Skin available for live arena or for any kind of arena, basically, which is really, really useful, especially because of Marius's amazing passive of counter-attacking many times. Lethal, obviously, or Savage. Lethal gives you 10% more crit rate, which is nice to have. But you can use Savage here as well, which ignores 25%. So you can see 9-piece Merciless has 35%, Slayer has 30%, and Lethal has 25%. You can already see that. Now, one of the cool features that Raid has recently added is this preset manager. And this is the reason I was able to do this testing by just flipping through all of the gear sets again and again. So I'm going to first display the total stats that I used on each of these sets. And yes, there's a disclaimer. They're not identical stats. I just don't have the gear to make the exact identical stats given the exact gear. But that also plays into account, for example, Slayer having extra crit rate. You don't need to build it, so you can pump those stats elsewhere. Things like that. So the Slayer build is something that you already see. 257 speed, almost 6.5k defense, 100% crit rate, 387 crit damage. Accuracy is 355. And if I switch over to Lethal, for example, let me do the full changeover. Lethal now, speed is very similar, 253. Crit damage is lower at 304. Defense is also lower at 5.3k. Accuracy is higher, which you would also expect for this Lethal build, which mostly is tending towards PvP. So that was the Lethal plus Cruel build. And now let's look at the Merciless build. Remember, with Merciless, it is more tuned towards attack damage dealers because they get the 25% attack. You can see Marius's attack is quite high with that as well. So the stats we get is 5.6k defense, to very similar speed. Crit damage is slightly off, but not by much. Accuracy is pretty much the same. So these are the merciless stats. One thing, I have this Cat's Case relic at level 5 that I kept the same for each of the 3 gear sets, so that doesn't change. She has 6-star Crushing Rend, which obviously helps everywhere in the game. And then I have him in Helm Smasher, and these are the masteries. So guys, we are gonna go full nerd mode for this. We are going to take each location, we're going to take the run in each gear set, and we're going to see how many turns or how many seconds it took for Marius or his team to basically go through the content. I'm not going to cover each and every single area, but I'm going to cover most dungeons. I am also going to do a Hydra comparison, even with quick battles as well as individual damage. So make sure you watch the video all the way towards the end. And then we're going to come back to this nice little Excel sheet, and I'm going to reveal what the numbers are below. This was done on a stream, and there was a lot of tweaks going on. So if you want to check out the entire stream, I will link that in the description. So make sure you do that. With that said, let's jump into the testing. So we start off with campaign. So with campaign, first off is the Slayer set, as you can see. And this is Nightmare campaign, 12-6 or 12-7, I believe. One shot on the wave 1, one shot on wave 2. There was the refresh as well coming in, and 2 shots right there, just 10 seconds. We move on to lethal without any delay. As you can see, the stone skin pop up. One shot wave 1, one shot wave 2 with the A1. I ran 12-6 this time for some reason. Should be similar, to be honest. But let's see now with Merciless. And I think this one is again 12-7. So the lethal might be slightly slower when I run 12-7. And now we come back to Merciless. They're doing very similar damage, right? So this is 12 seconds. So if we go back to the Excel, these are the numbers that I have noted. So again, lethal was faster, probably because it's 12-6, not 12-7. But the numbers are very identical, so no major difference. And campaign is not a location where we are looking for subtle differences anyhow. So let's move on to the next one. The next one is gonna be Minnow, I believe. Yeah, so we first start off with Slayer. A2 demolishes wave 1. A1 demolishes wave 2. We're on to the boss. And 1 hit the boss as well. 7 seconds on the Minnow. So now after this, we should jump into lethal. You will see the stone skin jumping in. Wave 1 demolished in 1 hit. Wave 2 also gone in the second hit. And there's a difference with the Slayer, because no Slayer procs. That's why there are 2 AoEs needed. So this one is 12 seconds. And finally, we have Merciless. I'm not going to pause too much on campaign and Minnow because it's super easy content, right? Later on, I'm going to pause and talk about the content as well. There's the extra turn mechanic on Merciless, the 15% chance. So 8 seconds. So if we come back to the sheet right here, very similar times with Slayer and Merciless basically slightly ahead. Again, if I tested 12-7, this will probably speak similar. Probably this would be 14 seconds or so, most likely. And then the story will add up. So with that said, let's jump into the next area. And the next area is Ice Golem. So this Ice Golem team is a team that I came up with, and I've put out a video. It's gotten quite popular. If you haven't checked that out, please make sure you do so. This is a team that takes advantage of Marius. It needs to be a very good build Marius. You need to have other 3 champions. Their builds are not that important, but Marius definitely is. But it can work also without 6-star Crushing Rend. People have done it. They've messaged me. So make sure you check this team out. We take advantage of Minotaur as unkillable and block debuffs on the wave on the boss, and then reset it to make sure that Marius is always hitting while the unkillable is up. Geomancer is an amazing champion who basically throws back the retaliation hits from the boss to kill him faster. So let's look at the run. I've done this run many times. This is first starting off with Slayer, which is the set that I've used. Marius demolishes wave 1 with a single hit. On the second hit, now what we are aiming to do is Marius takes the speed lead, but he doesn't kill because he allows Seer to nuke the second wave. There's the turn meter steal and the HP burn. As you can see, the retaliation hits are hitting the boss while we are not dying because of the unkillable. We popped up half his health, we reset, and we go again doing the exact same thing. Boss will now basically kill himself. There you go. So with Slayer, it's 19 turns and 31 seconds. Again, I ran this multiple times if you want to check out the stream. As you can see, the best that time I've gotten is 26 turns and 15 seconds, and that's also with the Slayer set. Let's go with Lethal. The Stone Skin is in, and it's gonna go pretty much the same. The damage is a bit lower. He's not able to nuke the wave. That's the first thing that I immediately see. It doesn't matter, it's gonna take slightly longer. He's able to get through the wave. The second wave, as I said previously, we are basically counting on Seer to nuke this wave, not Marius. Seer takes the wave, and then we are through to the boss. This time we have no Slayer procs, so no extra damage. So this will do 10% of the boss's health. We are relying on Geomancer doing the rest of the damage. Because of the Stone Skin, you see Marius's HP is also full. There's the second hit. And now Geomancer's damage is basically taking the boss down slowly but surely. And now we are relying on Geomancer stealing the turn meter and Marius getting back to his third hit, which he does. 30 turns, 48 seconds. Slower than the Slayer build, but still really, really fast. And as you can see, once the boss's HP is down in the dirt, then he will not do the retaliation hit anymore. So it's less scary. So that's the lethal build. Now let's jump into Merciless. Now, immediately, Merciless has a 15% chance to get an extra turn. What that means is Marius might run out of his unkillable buff if Marius takes multiple extra turns of the boss. So I would not recommend this. This will work, but it will not be consistent. So will not recommend Merciless for this build. But when the extra turn does proc, he also does more damage. So, and he basically gets his, as you can see, immediately got back his A2 even on the first wave. So we're down to wave 2 and we're doing the exact same thing. A1 here and Seer nukes the wave. On to the boss once again. Here we are counting on Marius to not proc the extra turns. Right now he did. There's the unkillable still on. And we were lucky that we survived that hit. But that's the problem. Do you see Marius's health without the unkillable? Extra turn mechanic basically almost ruined the fight there. So Merciless is not something I would recommend right here. In this case, we reset, the unkillable is back up, and we nuke again. So all should be fine because of Geomancer's hitbacks. And Marius even gets the third turn. 29 turns, 48 seconds. Let's go back to the leaderboard. There it is. Highest Golem Heart 10. 19 turns with Slayer, 30 with Lethal and Savage. 30 seconds compared to 48 seconds with Savage, Lethal, and Merciless. So Slayer is the definite winner here. I've run this multiple times as well, even though I've showed only one run, and this stays consistent. Slayer is definitely the fastest run, both in terms of turns, which is great for the turn attack tournament, but also for the time taken, which is also an important factor, right? So next team I'm going to show you is another new team that I came up with, which is the new Godseeker Duo. Not with Ninja, but with Marius. You need a crazy build for Marius for this one. I think it's necessary to have the Crushing Rend on him. So instead of Godseeker being in a regen build, she's in a 2-turn Stone Skin and as chunky of a shield as you can get, as high the HP as you can get. That's basically how it works. I have a separate video for this as well. Be sure to check that out. But let's go. This is first starting off with the Slayer set. Marius nukes down the wave, no problem at all. And here, 2 A1s are enough to take the hit. Now here's something very important. We start off with the A1 so the boss takes this turn, because with this turn he does a lot of damage, and we just want to get this out of the way. That's why I did the A1 there. Now I will get the turn back. That was the counter attack, and we go. Now notice that the adds are dead, and that's very important, because when the adds are dead, then he basically does not ignore defense. If the both adds are alive, he ignores 100% defense. If one of them is alive, he ignores 50% defense. So here, because Marius kills the adds, that's one less ignore defense hit that Godseeker's shield has to take. So he will continue smacking. He kills us completely fine. We heal slightly with Godseeker 10. Godseeker is really slow. And we are basically counting on him to get back. There he gets back. He will hit again. And again until he's dead. And now he's out of his retaliation hits. So we revive with Godseeker. And she resets the skills. And there's the third AoE. 18 turns, 40 seconds. Really, really fast. Now, will this strategy work with lethal or savage with stone skin? So, let's go. We know that the lethal set is the weaker set, so it doesn't hit as hard. That's the first time the opposing waves have been able to take a turn, which is crazy. Now they have Enfeeble on, so it shouldn't really matter because the damage they do is gonna be nothing. We get the revive on death. I said damage they do will be nothing, but they kill me. It doesn't really matter. We got the revive in, and the revive will come back in time, I'm sure. So there's the A1. Now we kill. Now notice the ads are alive, so that's one extra hit for the Stone Skin Shield. She revives. There you go. Another hit. And another hit. And the Stone Skin shield is down. Because he was not able to do enough damage on wave 2, he basically got killed and he had to be revived on wave 2 already. That's why she did revive once here, but he didn't get the second mechanic which you saw already in the Slayer run. So this is just going nowhere now, and she's dead. So this run actually failed. I've run multiple times, the same thing happens each time with the lethal or savage set. Could you make this work with high enough stats? Probably, if you can build that in. Now, next up is Merciless. Again, Merciless with the extra turn mechanic here, I normally would not recommend, but it does more damage. So if between the two, if one of them can work, it's Merciless that has the higher chance. So there we are through to the boss. Start off with the A1 as usual. There's the A2. Boss hits. Ads are dead. Again, notice that difference. Ads are not dead. Ads are alive, which means that was an extra hit to the shield. And the Godseeker shield is already more than halfway. So there's the extra turn mechanic. And we get the first freeze, and Godseeker's out of her shield. And that is not good. Now she's taking a lot of damage. Even though I hit, the retaliation hit is gonna kill me. So killing those ads is extremely important. This would have worked with Merciless, but I'm not able to get the stats in order to basically kill the ads in one hit. So if you are able to do that, then Merciless will work for this build. For the other team, I would really not recommend using Merciless because of the unkillable timing. So let's bring this further down. There is the Godseeker Duo, in which for me, Slayer set, it worked. For Lethal and Merciless, it did not. Again, if I build Merciless up to the same level of stats, maybe it might work. But I just don't have that gear. But Slayer is a very safe bet. That's what we are noticing. So now let's move on to the Spider. So Spider Hard 10, I generally use a solo farm with Marius, and I can throw in 4 food champions. That's the way it works, especially on Spider turn attack tournaments. And as you can see, he's brought him down super low in just 3 turns. And turn number 4, boom, he's dead in 5 turns. 5 turns, 17 seconds. Let's go with Lethal. Is Lethal going to be able to do the same? Let's see. So we will start off probably with A3 because I'm not using presets, right? Extra turn gets 2 more spiderlings, which is great because killing spiderlings does damage to the spider mother. And now he has healed a little bit. Yes, there is a heal. But we're still chunky. We're still going through. More spiderlings come on. The more damage we do, we have dropped him down very significantly. Of course, the run is a bit slower, but we should be able to get this done. Boom and boom. There you go. 9 turns, 31 seconds. And now let's move on to the next build, which is Merciless. Merciless, let's see if the extra turn mechanic procs or not. That's going to be the main thing. But also actually the cooldown reduction is going to be really good. Extra turn did not proc, but the damage is generally higher anyhow. So we should be able to kill this relatively fast. She's pretty much down. We are at 6 turns. More spiderlings spawn, and there's the extra turn. Boom and boom. There it is. 8 turns and 26 seconds. Let's go back to the leaderboard. So, excuse me. Thank you. So, 5 turns, 9 turns, and 8 turns. Slayer is still faster. Not just by turns, but also with time for the spider. Hard 10. So far it's very clearly Slayer in the lead, followed very closely by Merciless, and Savage or Lethal is lagging behind. Let's continue. We will continue with the Dragon Heart 10 run. Now I run a solo build here as well, but I keep Staltus here just as insurance because Staltus is in that very chunky region build. So in case he dies, Marius, then he can take over and finish the boss off. That's literally the only reason. Technically, I could build him even tankier, Marius, so he doesn't die. In this case, he did not. That's Slayer with 16 turns and 21 seconds. So let's go to the next one, which should be Lethal. Come on. Why am I pausing so much? Oh, I ran one more Slayer. Sorry. Let's go with Lethal. There it is. Wave 1. Again, it's slower than Lethal getting through the waves, obviously. But we're able to go through still in 9 turns and 14 seconds. There's the A2. That one went down in one hit. RNG obviously is always a factor. Through to the boss in 12 turns. Poisons on us. And there's another cool thing about his AoE hit is also that he heals, which is really cool. So we have reduced the boss down significantly. And are we able to take him down? Yes, we are. So it's obviously slower, 27 turns instead of 16, but still gets the job done even in lethal gear. Let's move on to the next one, which should be Merciless. Hello. Yes, there it is. So we start off with the A2, which reduces them down significantly. Merciless with the extra turn mechanics is amazing. And 2 back-to-back AoEs because of that cooldown reduction and the extra turn mechanic. So there's the first hit. Again, with Slayer, you do extra damage. With Merciless, you proc extra turns. There's another. And unfortunately, with the poison, we died, but the boss died as well because of the insurance that we have with Staltus. So 24 turns this time round. So let's go back to the leaderboard one more time. Dragon, similar story. 16 turns the fastest with Slayer, while 27 is the slowest with Lethal or Savage. 21 seconds versus 38 seconds at the slowest. Let's continue. So next up is Fire Knight Heart 10. Again, I have a separate video for this. I'm using 2 ally attackers and 2 Newt, very endgame team, I understand. But Marius also does the damage here. He is basically a Seer replacement in a way, and he also helps with the boss. So this is a Slayer set. Through to the boss in 7 turns. Crazy. There's the ally attack number 1. I have Phantom Touch on both my ally attackers, which help with taking down the shield. And obviously, one of the Newts as well. Newts obviously do their triple hit. The shield is down. And now Marius goes with his A1, with his A2. There's the Blessed Bash from the first Newt. Blessed Bash from the second Newt. And the Soul Reproc finishes him off. 12 turns, 35 seconds. Crazy team. Separate video on this as well. Do check that out. And in that video, I also talk about multiple different versions of this team. A team using only one Newt, a team which does not have Marius, for example. All of those do work. So check that out. Now, after this, let's go with the Lethal. Lethal again, as this has been the story with the waves, it is a bit slower to kill the waves. So we are through with 7 turns in 16 seconds. Now we are putting Enfeeble on everybody. One Enfeeble basically got reflected because of the Reho effect. And we are through to the boss. Ally attack number 1. So the shield break should happen because of the Phantom Touches and the high blessings I have, as well as the 2 ally attacks. Should be enough to break the shield. There it is. And it should be the same story. So this one doesn't really need a Slayer proc. The Slayer, what it helps with the Fire Knight is just with the waves. So we are able to do it. 5 turns extra and around 20 seconds extra. So this works with Lethal as well. So now let's move on to Merciless, which is the extra turn set. It's paused. Sorry. So let's continue. Wave number 1. Merciless should smack harder. There it is. Down to the second wave. And Marius is A1. And basically Newt skill off the rest of the wave. We're through the boss only in 8 turns, which is great. Ally attack number 1. drops the shield down to 11. Now ally attack number 2. This should break the shield once again. It does. Now there is the A2. And there's the extra turn, another A2. This is the great showcase of basically the 9-piece Merciless. Like here we didn't even need the second node, but that's again, this is just a 15% chance. So now let's go back to the leaderboard once again, and we see the same story continuing. The difference is much more subtle this time around. So they all work pretty fine. Just the changes we are noticing is with clearing the wave, and that's also a matter of stats. So with Fire Knight, the difference is not that big, honestly. Now the next one I wanted to test is Hydra. Now I want to test Hydra in 2 ways. One, I'm going to test is basically just taking Marius in for 1 hit and seeing how much damage he does in 1 hit and then taking him away. And noting that number down. And I'll do that 5 times for each of the sets. So as you saw, I just start the run. And what I'll do is after that hit, whatever this number is, I will note it down. And then I will basically, I'm just waiting to get out of the battle. And there you go. And I will note that down. So this is what we will continue, and we'll note it down. So once I did that, again, check out the stream if you want to look at each and every number. But here's the 5 hits each time with each of the sets. Well, maybe I should pin this. No. Freeze up to row 1. Yeah, perfect. So these are the numbers in millions of damage. This seems wrong. Okay, I'll take this row off. I think those are times that something happened in copy pasting. I'll take this off. These are the numbers, and this is the average damage. So as you can see, the damage is in millions. Now Slayer in general along these, it's now 4 iterations, but I tested for 5 and it was the same story. Slayer is doing more damage. It's not very far off from Merciless, but it is slightly further up. And that might be because of the stats that I'm able to get on the Slayer set versus the Merciless. Savage is lacking quite far behind. So this is a call for people who really prefer Marius in the arena, who love using this build, which is a great build, to be honest. It's much better in PvP. But you are lacking out on Hydra, for example, on any longer fights. So once I had tested this, I also tested on a quick battle or an auto battle on how much damage each of these do. So let's look into that one. Where is it? Should be here. So what I did was I let run the quick battle from all of them. And you can see Slayer, Lethal, and Merciless. And I let the auto battle run on all 3. And let's see the numbers that we get at the very end. So good thing is that they all ran through to turn limit. That's something that we need to watch out for. I think while I was experimenting this one time, one of the battles did not run, but that's always something that happens because of RNG. So these are the numbers. Now let's look close. So the Slayer overall team damage on Slayer is higher, 599 compared to 568 and 519. But Marius's damage, I don't know if you can zoom in, it's identical, 296 million here and 296 million here on Slayer and Merciless. Lethal is lower with 246. So if we go back to the scoreboard once again, the team damage is higher, but Marius's damage is lower. That can be due to RNG, that can be due to enabling other damage dealers because of the 4-piece effect on Lethal. Because this damage is identical. And then again, Lethal is lagging far behind. So another thing I want to highlight is, I don't know if you can read, but look at the damage Acrizia is doing. This is 254 million here, 217 here, and 223 here. She's actually not that far from Marius, even though Marius is a much better damage dealer, especially in longer fights like the Hydra. How is she doing that? I have another video on this. Be sure to check that out, which is the best build for Acrizia, and it is not relentless. So make sure you switch her out, because she's able to do Marius's levels of damage or close to him. So that is the entire test, basically, that I have for you guys today. And I'm happy to run this again I'm happy to run this in other areas of the game, for example, like Chimera. I thought of Chimera, but to be honest, I don't know if it's worth testing because Merciless is a no go, especially if you're using some kind of strategy with the Ram form with unkillable or block damage of any kind. With the extra turns, he might ruin that and die consistently to the Ram form. So that's why I would not recommend Merciless. Lethal or Savage or Slayer are both good. In my opinion, Slayer is by far the best. That's the story that we saw throughout this testing as well, and I don't think that will change anyhow with the Chimera. I could test this out on the Doom Tower, for example. The Doom Tower waves in the later stages. That's something I can do. I can test it out on Amius, for example. So do let me know in the comments what else I should test. And if you've watched this video this far, there's a good chance that you like the video and you like my content. So please do hit that like button. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Helps me out tremendously. But thank you very much for watching. Let me know how I can improve this, if I should do this kind of test on any other champions. I'm happy to do so. Thank you once again, and see you next time.